And welcome in to Detroit Sports Talk, the fifth chapter. I'm Dennis Fithian, joined by Brian Jelinek. We're ready to get things underway on this Thursday. It's Jelinek, can we go ahead and say it? It's Labor Day weekend.
It's Labor Day weekend, man. It's so bizarre that it's already September. I can't believe it. I'm just pumped, man. We got Ohio State tonight. I am so freaking excited for this whole weekend. I got the whole house to myself, the whole Jelinek residence to myself, girlfriends out east, parents are going up north, playing golf Saturday morning, and just college football all damn day on Saturday. I have never been more excited for anything in my life.
Yeah, I mean, we got a little bit of a taste on Saturday with Illinois taking on Nebraska, and as we talked about here, take Illinois in the points. That was a good move, starting things out. Although they, Nebraska was shooting themselves in the foot. It wasn't a bad game to get things going, but now really it's on. You mentioned Ohio State, which we're going to get to, and why don't we tell everybody what we're going to be talking about here on the fifth chapter tonight?
Man. Pull this book up.
We'll throw up a little graph for you so you'll be able to see it all. There it is. And we're going to start out with that game tonight, Ohio State. And we'll talk about the Spartans who are in action tomorrow. And then Saturday, Michigan hits the field as they host Western. And then in the fourth chapter, we got a bunch of big games, including a Big Ten clash right out of the gate in Madison. We also got the awesome game in Clemson, where Clemson and Georgia are going to play. We'll talk about that one and any other games. And in the fifth chapter, we'll get to what we're thinking about the Lions here in the NFL as we are a week away from the NFL kicking off because they started out on that Thursday night game, right? It's going to be the Cowboys and Bucks. Isn't that right?
You got it. Yep. And on NBC Thursday night.
Yeah, so that's all ahead of us. And, so at times, I haven't felt like being on here like, man, there's just nothing to talk about. I think Miguel Cabrera helped us out with the chase for 500. That really pushed us through. But,
Cade Cunningham helped out a lot.
No doubt about
lottery, that helped a lot.
You're right. Pushing it, that not that you wanted the reason that everything got pushed and jammed up a little bit. But, yeah, the basketball season didn't even end till like mid or late July. So that got us to football. And here we are. Congratulations. Everybody give themselves a round of applause. And that's where we'll start with the game tonight. It's the Ohio State Buckeyes. They hit the field. They're taking on Minnesota. And there it is. You see the scarlet and gray. You might have to hide your eyes a little bit if you're a fan of another Big Ten team. But there they are. And, the thing is with Ohio State, whether you hate them or detest them or whatever it is, that they have dominated. I mean, they are the standard here, that if you're a Michigan or Michigan State fan, that when you see them hit the field, you're going to say, okay, do we stand a chance? And so you got to get a glimpse and take it in to see. I mean, here's a team that went to the championship game last year. They run the Big Ten almost every year. They're an elite program. I mean, there's Alabama and there's Clemson and there's Ohio State. I mean, we want to talk about Oklahoma and Georgia if we want to go 5, but if you're just extending it to 3, you're going to put Ohio State in there. So they're an elite program, and it's if you get a chance and they got the window out of themselves, you're going to watch them play.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think we can all hate Ohio State. It's something we can all bond about being in Big Ten country, specifically in Michigan. You being a Michigan fan, me being a State fan. It's fun to hate on Ohio State, but damn, they are good, man. Like, I was going through their schedule today, and the only losses I could remotely think about would be at Indiana. I think that's week 7 maybe. They're just I just don't see them losing to Minnesota, Oregon. For sure not Tulsa, Akron, and Rutgers. They're going to blow those teams out of the water. But the only game I can really think about is at Indiana. Indiana's always been a tough place for opposing teams to play. Indiana plays well. I love their coach, Tom Allen, which we can talk about later in the chapter. But I mean, if they beat Indiana, which they probably will, I can see them going undefeated. Absolutely. Just a clear spot right to the Big Ten championship and going right into the CFP yet again.
Yeah, I agree with you. Penn State and Michigan are down there in the horseshoe. Oregon is that next week. So I don't know. If that game was out in Eugene, we might be sitting here thinking, hey,
Yeah.
Maybe they could get tripped up there, but no, we'd expect them. They might be double-digit favorites, close
Absolutely.
to that, I would think,
Yeah.
against the Ducks. So you certainly expect them to win that game. And they're in a situation now, like you don't even have to follow recruiting that closely. That you know that they just are reloading. I mean, they're right up there, just like Alabama and Clemson and Georgia. They're right there. And last year they had one of the greatest recruiting class. The experts are like, this is one of the greatest recruiting classes ever. And so they'll throw out this guy CJ Stroud tonight, and he'll take over for Justin Fields. Like normally you'd think, you got a shot, different quarterback in there, but we've seen it too many times. And it was only like I start, and we're going to talk about Michigan coming up. You start talking about Michigan and you can say, yeah, well, it's been a few years and, you might have your head down a little bit because of last year. It was only, 2 years ago or 3 years ago when Fields was getting his first start before I actually saw him play that I thought, hey, this is Michigan's chance. Not just because Ohio State was breaking in a new quarterback. Michigan was bringing back a senior quarterback in Shea Patterson.
Yep.
So they had that going for them. They also had the game in Ann Arbor. They also had a returning offensive line. Plus, the biggest factor, I thought, was that Urban Meyer was gone. So they're bringing in Ryan Day. And if there's the biggest factor in college football is going to be your head coach. So all of these things, like thinking, hey, maybe this is maybe this is it. Maybe this is Michigan's going to have a chance. It's at least lining up. And of course, it didn't happen that way. And you knew as soon as I think it might have been Cincinnati or I don't know, whatever it was. The first 5 possessions I watched, Ohio State scored on the first 5 possessions, and it was like, it didn't matter who the competition was. It was just like astounding. It was just like, wow, like okay, they're a machine. And they've got it going, and Day's taking what Urban Meyer had, and
just made it better. Yeah, he's pushing everywhere. How long was he the offensive coordinator at OSC before Meyer left? Like 1-2 years, maybe.
A couple of years, yep.
Like there's one thing to inherit an amazing program, which he clearly has. It's kind of like Paul Chryst inheriting Wisconsin, or same with Brett Bielema back in the day. But Ryan Day has just made the offense that much better, and in a way, you can consider Ohio State a new QBU. I mean, they've gone from Braxton Miller to J.T. Barrett to Cardell Jones to, I'm forgetting someone who what's the kid who got drafted by Washington? Haskins, who I thought was going to be really good in the NFL, who I still think he has a chance to be really good in the NFL if he figures out his attitude. But then they go to Justin Fields, and now they're going to this C.J. Stroud kid. Like, Ohio State is just reloading every single damn year. It's incredible. I don't see any other Big Ten teams doing that. I mean, Michigan State went from Connor Cook to Brian Lewerke to Rocky Lombardi. That's not great. The Michigan carousel is always supposed to be better. It's not that great either. I mean, it's bizarre. I can't think of any other school in the country really besides Bama, if you will, about this cornerback turnover.
No, and there's the man jumping in right there, Mr. Banker. So it's good. He's got things working for us on some of the technical sides. We're going to get that podcast up and running. So, that's good. You asked me a little bit earlier, in addition to, talking about Ohio State, talking about the coaches in the Big Ten. And I started, I was out walking. So I just think, all right, how am I going to rank these coaches? And immediately I put Harbaugh in front of Franklin because I don't like James Franklin. But then I had to start looking at the records a little bit when it came down to James Franklin. And I said, well, do I put Paul Chryst, who's Wisconsin's coach, the way they've owned Michigan the last 2 years, and just what they've got going, there in Madison? I thought, you know what? Am I going like, who do I really think is the best coach? Am I going with their overall body of work? Because if you do that, you can go to the pros, where Jim Harbaugh went to the Super Bowl and damn near went to another one, in the time that he was at San Francisco. And that's always been a pretty good trump card. Like, hey, you know what? Look at what Harbaugh was able to do. But I just stayed with just the Big Ten. And as much as I like Paul Chryst and as much as I don't like James Franklin, it is those coaches, when I put Harbaugh, they're 1-15 against Ohio State. Those 3 coaches. And the Franklin's got the 1 win. But I think there were 2 other games that were 1-point games. And the one is where Franklin really screwed it up. It was like 4th and 1, right around midfield. I don't remember the exact circumstances, but I mean, here he is. It was one of these situations where you get over there and you know that you have to, as a head coach, have the play call and all these different things. And he just botched it. Like, it was complete madness. As you watched him over there, you're like, this guy, when he might be able to recruit, he's a great face for the program. And, he's got him all the way there to the last minute. But man, count on this guy to have his team execute a big play late in the game. And, you can say that's what it's all about. You got to do all those other things, but I think 2 times they lost the game by 1 point, and you go back and put him under the microscope there. So, having said that, ranking the 5 coaches like I did, I just took into consideration what they have done so far in the Big Ten, and I put Harbaugh there at 5. And Michigan fans, I think they look back at they always say this to me when I'm talking to them. They say, yeah, well, remember what it was like with Rich Rodriguez and Brady Hoke? And it's like, yeah, I do remember, but you know what? He's got to beat Ohio State. And it's unfortunate in some ways, like, it's like the out card for a lot of Michigan fans. It's like, well, if Wisconsin played in the Big Ten East, they wouldn't be doing any good. And if Notre Dame, well, look at, this is their biggest rival. This is the game that you want. This is the game you grew up enjoying. So you can't really use that as an out. So I got Harbaugh 5. I've got Paul Chryst, the aforementioned coach there at Wisconsin. I have him 4. Franklin, because he's got that W and played those close games, even though I really don't think he saw that as a coach. And then I got Ryan Day. I've got him number 2.
Ryan Day at number 2. Jeez.
Well, he's only lost 2 games, and one of them, the first year, was against Clemson. And then he came back and avenged that loss. Just lost to Alabama in the championship game.
Wow. Who's number 1 then?
I have the coach at Northwestern. I'm going to let you take it away. I got to get my dog.
Pat Fitzgerald at number 1 is bizarre. I mean, I agree. I have Pat Fitzgerald for my second best coach in the Big Ten. But going from the top 5, I had a tough time choosing between Tom Allen and Kirk Ferentz, because I feel like Kirk Ferentz is good every other year. That's the vibe I get from Iowa. They're always a good staple Big Ten team, and some years they're excellent. Some years they're very average. I don't really see Pat Fitzgerald being Pat Fitzgerald being the best coach in the Big Ten. Anyway, Tom Allen, Kirk Ferentz. I love what Tom Allen's doing in Indiana right now. Indiana's becoming a better player in the Big Ten East. Going to number 4, I have James Franklin, just for the fact that he's kind of Jim Caldwell-esque, who's a great coach from Sunday to Saturday, or Sunday to Friday, excuse me. And Saturday he just forgets how to coach football. I hate late game decisions like you're talking about, that loss to Ohio State in Happy Valley. I believe that was the whiteout game, right? Or a whiteout game. Yeah, it was just a horrendous play call on a 4th down. Going to 3, I have Paul Chryst, just because I love Wisconsin's a good staple every single year. They're better than Iowa. They're the best team in the Big Ten West every year. I mean, I may not show that last year with Northwestern winning, but Wisconsin is the standard of the Big Ten West, without a doubt. And I love the old school football that they do, because they do it well. Nobody runs the ball better in the country than Wisconsin. And finally, if this was last year, I would make flip Fitzgerald and Ryan Day. But now it's got to be Ryan Day. He has 2 losses total, being the head coach of 2. Yeah, he's incredible. You could say that he inherited an amazing team. He's just made that team better and better and better every year. So Ryan Day is absolutely the best coach in the Big Ten and a top 3 coach in all of college football, without a doubt. The dude just wins.
Yeah, and the one thing, I don't know, sitting here, I'm not going to wear myself out patting Ohio State on the back, but it's tough taking over for a legend. I mean, you get over there, Urban Meyer, one of the greatest coaches. You might not like some of the stuff off the field or whatever else, how he rolls, but he's a winner. And anytime you're ranking college football coaches, if you're doing it off of wins and national championships and things like that, you're going to put Urban Meyer up there. And he had to take over for Urban Meyer, and like we talked about, not only did he keep it going, it looks like he's boosted it up a little bit, which is amazing. And to the detriment of the rest of the Big Ten, who thought it was going to be their shot, maybe at pulling at least back equal, or right now you just don't see that on the horizon. So too bad.
Their Dugan is so good. Just a machine what they do at Ohio State.
All right, Pete Finelli, who is working the chat, you can see him in there. He's weighing in, talking about watching Ohio. Look at I like he fits right in. I know he's from Pennsylvania, but he might as well be from the state of Michigan, calling Ohio State Ohio. Giving him like a backhanded compliment every year, talking about it's like the rest of the NFL watching Brady and Belichick. And, unfortunately, I think that is a comparison that I get. Here's Robert with some inside jokes. We're going to have to work on those. Paul talking about having a good show. Has to watch the podcast later. There you go. Mm-hmm. Go Blue. Beth, who's waiting for tomorrow. Ohio went 6-7 in 2011. Yeah, that was the transition year with that's the last time Michigan beat them, right?
Yeah, that was Jim Tressel to Luke Fickell, correct?
Yeah, that is right. Here we got an over and under from Raj.
Under. Let's just say the under. The over under is on 12 starts for Cade McNamara for the Michigan Wolverines this year. Just for the hell of it, I'm going to say under.
Well, I hope it's over. I hope that he plays the entire season and then gets a bowl game, which would make it 13. Actually, what would be great is if they made a college football playoff. Well, if they won the Big Ten East, then it would be game 13 would actually be in Indianapolis, which they've never been to. Then if they did that, then it would be the college football playoff, which could be 14, and then, maybe 15. So, but I'll take the over because at least they could get to a bowl game. That's what I like. Starts. Yeah, we were with you, Raj, on that one. That's good feedback.
Fifth, I have a quick question for you. I was watching Part of My Take when they had Kirk Herbstreit on there when we talked about on Tuesday about how Michigan fans could be not very enthusiastic, stuff like that. Kirk Herbstreit was saying something along the lines of an undefeated Cincinnati could have a real shot to get into the college football playoff. Do you think that's a realistic thing or not? Let's say like Georgia has one loss or something. Georgia would get thrown in before that, right?
Yeah, I mean, you never say never, but nobody, I think the writers and college football at large, they talk about wanting to give everybody else a shot. And, hey, everybody, it's the underdog story. And, yeah, what if they went out there and did it on the field? And how could you justify with these other teams with one loss? But you know what? In the end, TV doesn't want Cincinnati in there. They just want the regular teams from the Power Five that have been in there because they know it's going to be the biggest rating. One day, and I know that, they've talked about 12, and now today they were talking about, we're reducing it back to 8, which I predicted that they were going to do, that was just a show out there with 12. Actually, I hope they do expand it up to 12. They will get a shot, somebody like Cincinnati, and you will have an underdog factor in there. But I think if it stays at 4, I would give it a 2% chance.
Yeah, no shot.
A team like Cincinnati getting in there. So that's not much of a chance.
No, I totally agree. I mean, you're right. The college football playoff wants to have big-time schools in there, and a one-loss Oregon or one-loss Georgia or one-loss, Boston College at some random school is going to have a better chance of getting into Cincinnati with who's going undefeated. Absolutely.
Yeah. And there's one thing you always say, you go through it and you look at all the permutations and everything else. You say, well, what if this happens? What if, maybe, 10 things do line up and they stay undefeated and they really do look like they're a team that, the country wants to see. I think if it's the country, if they got on TV and they just had some players that you're really drawn to and they were blowing everybody out, and you're just like, man, we demand to see this team. We want to see them play against Ohio State. Put them in there. But, so far, I think people say a little bit like, let's see Coastal Carolina. But then, when it comes down to it, they're like, no. We want to see Oklahoma. We don't really want to see Coastal Carolina. We would rather see Oklahoma. So I think we'll know it when we see it. But I don't think it's going to be this year, or I don't think it's going to be in the current structure.
No chance any of those I'm totally blanking.
Group of five.
Group of five. Thank you. I can't want to say Power 5. No chance a Group of 5 school gets in with the 14 playoff. I totally agree.
No, that's a long way of answering your question. Just saying no way. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Chapter 2. Let's do it. All right. So in Chapter 2, You guys know what we're already going to talk about. It's Michigan State's visiting Northwestern this Friday or tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
Woo, 9:15 kickoff.
Oof, that's late, man. That is a late start. I have an early tea time on Saturday morning. That's going to be tough. And on top of that, just a totally different side note, my league commissioner for one of my fantasy leagues scheduled a draft tomorrow night at 9. That's tough. That's a real bummer.
I'm right with you. I have one that's starting at noon on Saturday when Michigan's playing. I might be driving in my car, pulling off to the side of the road, making my first 2 picks or something. I don't know what's going on.
I think you would have to. Is he a Michigan State fan then, your league commissioner?
Yeah, we have a lot of state fans. I think he is. Actually, I think the commissioner this year is a Michigan fan, but we have just as many state fans in there. You know, when they originally put the OK out, I thought they put the 5th out there, which, is Sunday. There's nothing going on. I thought, that's the perfect time. That's the way they've done it all in the past. So I pushed OK almost immediately. And then this week, they're like, hey, is everybody coming over on Saturday? I'm like, what? Saturday? So, yeah.
All right. So, anyway, did you happen to watch Mel Tucker's press conference on Tuesday or not?
I read a few of the stories about what he had to say. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just out of all the teams in the Big Ten, Michigan State back. And he specifically told Thorne and Russo not to talk to the media on Tuesday, stuff like that. Who do you think is going to start? I think it's going to be Peyton Thorne. I think he's easily going to beat out the transfer quarterback Russo from Temple. But I don't know. It's really interesting. Peyton Thorne had an okay year when he came in to start. Russo has been good. He was good at Temple for 26 starts there. He's the all-time leader in passing yards, completions, attempts, and TDs. I don't know. I mean, I'm really confused about it. I want it to be Peyton Thorne, but I think it's going to be him, but I really don't know.
Yeah, well, Mel Tucker's not alone, and playing though. You'll see our quarterback when he goes out there. Whenever there's they like to play that game, and that's fine. I mean, I think coaches they think they're being tricky. It's one of the things these guys grind their whole life and get to these spots, but I don't think it gives them any advantage at all. So by doing it, and you hear them we want each kid competing all the way through, Brad, but the thing is, they're taking snaps this week. Somebody's going to tell somebody, so we'll know by Saturday. And if they're taking an equal amount of snaps, I don't think that's a good idea here. Like if you're not sold, it's not that it's not a good idea. I should backtrack and say it doesn't bode well for the team. If you're splitting the snaps up to an opener on the road, where you might have to play both of your quarterbacks. That's giving you a little bit of weakness. You got to pick your guy, get him out there. So during the week, he can take the first team snaps. Everybody knows it, and they're going to know anyway. So I find all that ridiculous. But the coaches, Tucker, again, he's not alone in doing that. So I don't know. I haven't seen anything from Russo. I tuned in. I'm a little biased towards Thorne because I didn't pick up that Penn State game, Michigan-Penn State last year. Right in the first quarter, it was towards the end of the first quarter, I started watching it. And the first 3 drives that I watched Peyton Thorne in his first start in his college career, he threw 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
And I didn't watch the second half. I remember wherever I was going, I was like, State's found their quarterback. I ended up losing the game and everything, but it was hard for me to get off of my spot here. Like, wow, State's got their guy. So, yeah, I think it'll be Thorne myself if I had to make the pick, but. You get into a situation where if it's dicey, you might end up in seeing both of them this year. And the thing is, with Michigan State, I think they're only going to win 5 games. I think there's a lot of State fans that are hoping. Hey, I hear a lot of 6-6, and we hope for 7-5, whatever. All of that is possible, but I don't think if you're picking Northwestern. If you're picking Michigan State to be below 500, you're picking them to lose this game tomorrow. So Michigan State goes out there and wins it, then right off the bat, you can make a statement.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth, feeling comfortable, not feeling comfortable. Northwestern's a tough spot to play at, man. But I think at the end of the day, I think it will be Peyton Thorne being QB1 for the year, or for the game at least. And Northwestern's lost some good players, and I think Michigan State has a really good chance to play well. I mean, Peyton Thorne last year for overall threw just over 50% for 500, almost 600 yards, ran the ball a little bit, but like you said, that Penn State game, he was really good for 225 yards. I think that set some sort of quarterback record or like freshman quarterback record with Michigan State. I don't know. I see the line still. I'm confused about the game. I think Pat Fitzgerald will probably be able to replace some of his players somewhat well, but I'm worried about Michigan State in that game tomorrow. And if they're only going to win 5 games, it's for sure a loss tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I was worried about Michigan State last year, like Mel Tucker, because of COVID and everything. I didn't even think he knew most of the players, like, the week before the game. I think he was walking up like, hey, I'm the head coach, what's your name? So I was thinking, like, in the situation that Antonio left him in, I was thinking, you know what, State might not win a game, and then they look like a clown show against Rutgers, and then they came out and beat Michigan. So they've got – it's another thing here. They've got so many transfers that are coming in here, an inordinate amount, and, they're playing key roles on this team, maybe at quarterback. Certainly it looks like at running back in the mix. Crouch, the linebacker, might be the best defender. They got a ton of transfers. How they acclimate and get ready to go in a team setting right off the bat on the road against Northwestern, I would say that's why when I'm breaking down the game, somebody's asking me, how I think it's going to go, I think Northwestern's going to win at 23-17.
I like that score. I think Michigan State will for sure be within a touchdown and extra point. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than that. I'd like to see them lose by less than 6. As long as they look competent and not like they were against Rutgers last year to open the season, I think I would be happy. I think that's the biggest issue right now. Just don't look like what you did a year ago against Rutgers.
Yeah, there's no, it's not that bad of a deal going on the road losing against Northwestern. I mean, That's not the biggest thing. But like you say, you go out there and keep it close. You can come back. Beth's asking, like, what happened to the cake teams at the beginning of the season, like Eastern. Yeah, well, they got some cake teams in there, like I think Youngstown or whatever else, but I don't know, the Big Ten, like this is the first time that State is starting out with a conference foe since like the early 80s. I know Michigan played Wisconsin back in 81, and obviously they're mixing a little bit of this in. Ohio State's playing Minnesota. It gets it going right away, which, can be attractive. But I would rather, if it's perfect, if you're a fan and you're going to play these tune-up games, well, let's have the tune-up game to tune everything up. Let's not have the tune-up game after a conference game on the road to Best Point. But, Beth, you reminded me, speaking of cake, if you could throw up the graphic of the cheesecake,
you got it.
I want to alert people that are watching here for the 5th chapter, anybody that's, one, I would say if you are a Lions fan, number 2, if you like cheesecake. And number 3, if you're in and around Madison Heights, my friends over at the 24th Cheesecake, the Cheesecakery, it is in Madison Heights. I said, hey, go ahead. We're going to have a tailgate on the kickoff for the day for the Lions. You can see the time here, noon to 5, and they're selling tickets for $25. We're giving away a pair of tickets here, a ticket. If you just get at me, just DM me. My DMs are open on Twitter, so just get in there and say, hey, I want a cheesecake. And I have sampled the cheesecake there from the guys before, and I can tell you, you're like, yeah, I like cheesecake. Everything else, I like cheesecake. I ate their cheesecake. I thought it was the best, and those guys are doing it up. Sounds like it's going to be a party. So, one, you like cheesecake, you like food, $25. Looks like some drinks involved in there as well, however that works. So maybe you got to be 21 or over. But get at me on Twitter, and we'll hook that up, and we will make it happen.
That sounds awesome, man. I'm glad you love cheesecake. Cheesecake is pretty solid at the end of the day.
Taco.
All right, my man's making food orders right now, so I think it's time to move on to Chapter 3, talking about some UofM playing a tune-up game against Western Michigan. So, Beth, that's the tune-up game you're talking about. And 5th, Western Michigan's not a bad team. Do you want to do the over and under first? Or do you want to go into Western Michigan?
Oh, hey, we could talk about. We can go any direction. What did you say? The over and under on what?
I just saw you put up a comment there from Raj about over under with Cam Newton. Okay,
I was just clicking it. It happens.
Anyway, I was looking through online today, just thinking like, wow, how could Western Michigan pull off an upset in the Big House? Well, first of all, they can't. I don't see that happening at all. However, Western Michigan does have a pretty solid offensive attack. Their quarterback, Caleb Elby, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. Kid's
Ellerby,
good.
I think
Ellerby?
Yeah.
I may have forgotten an R in my notes. But last year against Toledo, he had this awesome fake Matthew Stafford-esque fake spike play to score a touchdown at the end of the game. Western is a solid, experienced squad in the MAC. I went to Western for 2 years. I happen to love Western. I'm going to root for Western to win because I don't like Michigan. But, I don't know, Caleb Elby, solid player, solid quarterback. He can run the ball a little bit. The offense is quick. But they're not going to win. We all know that. Everybody knows that they're not going to win in the big house. I would love to see it happen, but it's not. Michigan just has to take over the game. Western Michigan will be able to keep up for 30 minutes or so. I don't know, 30, 35 minutes. Michigan just has to take over. Cade McNamara has to be good, and the new defense under Mike McDonald has to be stellar as well, I think.
Yeah, I think that's solid analysis. Look, Michigan's lost to a MAC team before.
Yep.
In Toledo, so it's not unheard of. We've seen MAC teams go into some Big Ten venues and shock the world. It's almost like it's an annual thing now, so you never say never. And it's not like Michigan is like the old Michigan where you just think they're going to roll their helmets out there and win the game by 40 points. They only won 2 games last year. So, I mean, all those things being said, they are a 17-point favorite. So you would think that Michigan would be able to go out there and win this game. And, I think they're going to win it. I think that I look at a, 1-score game going into half, and, then you can see, Western, seeing if they're going to stay in it in the third quarter, then maybe Michigan, jumping up by 2 scores and then going on to win it. I think 35-17. So that's just covering that 17 points. But, maybe Western, because they can throw the ball around a little bit, maybe they will get McDonald's defense and, they're trying a lot of different things there. Maybe they can hit them with their pants down a little bit and keep it closer than that. And I think all those possibilities are out there. But I think Michigan's going to win it. Michigan's got this has been an off season like not many that I can remember. One, I mean, if you take the pandemic, of course, there's been no off seasons like these, and Michigan only winning 2 games, so all of that. But not Rich Rodriguez's first year or second year, but going into his third year, there wasn't much hope or promise, and it was an off season. Like usually off seasons for Michigan, people are all hyped up, and non-Michigan fans are tired of it. Like, okay, man, you guys are getting pretty hyped up for a team that's not going to do anything. That's what non-Michigan fans say, but Michigan fans usually are rocking and rolling, in the off season, acting like they're going to, win everything, and this is going to be the year, but not this year. Nobody's talking about beating Ohio State. Nobody's talking about going to the Big Ten championship game. Nobody's talking about winning double-digit games. So it's up to Michigan here. And in Harbaugh, everybody was so confident. This is his 7th year. 7 years ago when he was taking over that job, it was a home run hire. Here's a guy that is coming back. College coaches that go to the pros or go to the Super Bowl, they don't go back to college. But Jim Harbaugh was. He was coming back, and he was going to save Michigan and pull them back to being whatever, competitive, elite, however you want to look at it. And we know that's not happened. And we know that his buyout has been cut in half, and so is his salary. So Michigan can move on after this year. They've got 12 games here starting on Saturday to show everybody that it's different, that they're on the road, to doing something here. Whether that's going to happen, I don't think we're going to find out about that Saturday. We might have a better look. We will have a better look next week when they play Washington, though, in that night game.
Yeah, Western's had pretty okay success against bigger schools like that. I mean, the Cotton Bowl was a horrible showing at Western on that part. But going back, I think I was a sophomore at Western. I had all my friends from Michigan State come down, the apartment, all that. Went to the game. And what's cool about the stadium at Western, at Waldo, where they play, is you're right on top of that. Like looking down and seeing Connor Cook against our defensive linemen, they were the same height. It was bizarre. But at the end of the day, Western hung out for a half, and then it just fell off after that because Michigan State was bigger, faster, stronger, all that. I think what you said is perfect. They're going to hang around. I don't know. It's going to be 14-7, 28-14, 28-21, something like that in the first half. Then Western may score a field goal after that in the second half. That'll be it.
Here's a prediction from D. Crow. 4-2 zip.
No chance. No chance.
How about it? All right, let's you got anything else? Or are you ready to move on?
No, go Broncos, man. Let's move on to the 4th chapter.
All right.
All right, fifth, we got a full slate of college football. What games are you excited for this week? Or this weekend, excuse me.
Well, it sets up really nice. The Labor Day weekend, there was a time that it wasn't like this, and then you just had games on Saturday, but then they start talking about doing the Friday games, and then people are like, it's going to take away from the high school, and I was one like that too. Hey, that's not tradition and everything, but now that they've gone to this Thursday, I like the Thursday night. I like having Ohio State. I like Michigan State playing an annual Friday game. And of course, I like the action all day Saturday. And then the boot, you get a game, what Notre Dame's playing on Sunday, and they have throw one on Monday for you too. So you get 5 straight days here of college football. So it's awesome. I like all of it. I'll be taking all of it in here. So I'm looking forward to all of it. But tonight, Ohio State. Tomorrow, Eastern, I don't know. However, I'm going to find that game, ESPN3 or something at 7 o'clock. I'm going to see if I can check out the Eagles there. And then at 9:15, I'll be looking in at Evanston, seeing what's going on with Michigan State, Northwestern. I'm going down to the tailgate to do a pregame with some folks at Michigan on the golf course. So early Saturday morning, I'll be down there. But then, like I mentioned, I've got a fantasy draft, so I'm going to be hightailing it back home for kickoff in my draft there. And then I know I'm going to have to tape that Wisconsin-Penn State game, which is also at noon. At 3:30, there's 2 games. What is Alabama and the U, and there's another Big Ten game, Iowa and Indiana. I'll probably DVR that game. And then I'll DVR the Wisconsin-Penn State game. And then Saturday night, I mean, that's what it's all about if you're a college football fan, watching some Georgia at Clemson. That's when it'll be on. That's where it'll feel like, and hopefully, your school has won, and then you're just sitting back with some popcorn and friends and being able to take that game in. That's going to be great.
Yeah, I agree. And we can bring in our resident Penn State fan / student in a second, our intern Pete. But the 2 games I'm looking forward to are, first of all, Bama and the U, because I think the U is just going to get destroyed by Alabama. And I'm really looking forward to that because I don't like is it Manny Diaz, is he the coach? Is that the name? Manny Diaz? I think that dude's kind of a fraud. I love De'Aaron King, but I'm really worried about that kid's ACL. Anything after an ACL injury just freaks me out. And plus, Alabama's got Bryce Young now. They got this awesome transfer from Tennessee. His name's like Tutu or something like that, Henry Tutu. They're just going to be so sick. They're going to be so good again. Ohio State, Clemson, Bama, and you can throw in Oklahoma or 4th for the college football playoff. But Alabama's just going to roll the U. I can't wait to see that happen. I also hate Tate Dorsey with a passion. I know he's not there anymore, but he's affiliated with Miami for a bit. So just got to hate the U.
Yeah, I pull for any team that's taking on Alabama, but, it doesn't do me much good, So I'll be pulling for the U in that game to keep it close, make it interesting, but I don't think that is going to happen. I do wonder when you got Clemson and Georgia with a really good defense, and Clemson, they're like Ohio State, like Bama. They're just reloading, and we saw 2 games last year from the big freshman quarterback. And my question is, how long is it going to be till his name is a household name for college football fans? Because it's a very difficult name to say. People just call him DJ. You've heard people give it a chance, a shot. I'll give it a chance. DJ Uiagalelei. DJ Uiagalelei. How long before that name is, rolling off everybody's tongue?
How long did it take Trevor Lawrence to become a household name?
Well, right away. And plus, you could pronounce his name pretty quick. Well, he didn't start right away. They were playing him, and then they had a quarterback.
No, I understand that, but like when Trevor Lawrence became the starter, it took him a handful of games to become a household name.
He can throw. I think Uiagalelei right off the bat. What you saw him against Notre Dame last year, that thrilling game. That was the best game besides Coastal Carolina and BYU. I had to go back and watch it on YouTube. So the best game of the year was Notre Dame and Clemson. So most people have seen DJ Uiagalelei already. So they know he's just a star in the waiting here.
Yeah. It's going to be a handful of games, 2-3 games, maybe until he's a household name. I mean, Clemson's going to roll the ACC again. I don't really believe in North Carolina that much. Who else is good in the ACC besides North Carolina, Clemson, and the U?
There you go. We got a Bishop Sycamore reference. I like that. Well, the one thing about that Mac Brown's team, North Carolina, they play tomorrow night too, so we can also see them playing in a Friday night game. Well, there's a big game that's taking place. We mentioned it in the Big Ten at 3:30. It is Iowa and Indiana. And most years you'd say Iowa and Indiana, but Iowa's pretty good now. And I mean, so Indiana's pretty good now. And, that actually is a top 25 matchup. And another top 25 matchup is going to take place in Madison. And if we bring in Pete Finelli, do I have to click it in? There he is.
How are you guys?
Pete,
hi.
Say hello to the Fifth Chapter audience. They've seen you there on the chat. Now they see your face.
Yeah.
Come on, man. You got it.
But, Penn State has Wisconsin for their first game this season. Obviously, they were awful last year. I mean, started 0-5. We all know that. Worst start in their program ever. But they turned it around, and I think they have a chance this week. I have them winning. Maybe just might be biased, but I do have them putting up a good game and starting the season off strong.
Well, I think, you got a quarterback in Clifford. Now, he didn't play that good last year, but, he can move around a little bit. And I think you're going to have the best player skill-wise out there in Dotson. I don't know what game it was last year when he returned that kick. I mean, it was electric, but they didn't have fans. It was like, wow, could you just imagine if they would have had fans in this game? And maybe it was against Michigan State. I don't remember. But it was so electric, and it was just like, whoa.
Yeah,
nobody in the stands.
Yeah, Clifford's tough. Yeah, he's a great athlete, but questionable throwing, questionable decision making, a lot of stupid INTs, and frustrating to watch a lot. But you bring up Dotson also, and who is phenomenal. I love watching him.
Yeah, he's
had
awesome.
A really nice one-handed catch for a touchdown or just down to the one. I think it was against Ohio. He's fantastic. Can't wait to watch him this season. So we'll see how their connection is. But
what grade is Sean Clifford in now? Is he a junior or senior? Because I feel like
he's a senior.
Forever. He replaced McSorley, right?
Yeah, he replaced McSorley. He's a senior.
I have a bad feeling that Wisconsin's outside linebacker is just going to be living, rent-free in the Penn State offensive line. Just that defense is going to be really good this year. They got Graham Mertz.
Yes, the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, quarterback.
Yeah,
that kid's back. He's really good. As long as Wisconsin runs the ball, I don't think Penn State has a chance to win that game.
Well, I'll tell you this, Pete and Brian, is that it is a different year. You have Wisconsin, but they have the same principles, and it's almost like it's the same thing. Their offensive linemen are all 6'7", like 320. They've got an outstanding running back. They're just going to try to line up and bulldoze you. They got a very good tight end. And that's going to be their game plan. They're going to try to punch you in the mouth, and they're going to play behind the crowd there at Madison, which is a very enthusiastic crowd. It's you might say if you're the analyst there, Kirk Herbstreit, two enthusiastic fan bases that'll be watching that game more than Michigan. But then you go to the other side on the defense for Wisconsin. Here they got the outstanding linebacker and Jack Sanborn. I love watching that guy play. Just, he's worth the price of admission. So is Dotson. Yep. I think it's going to be a great game. But because it's in Madison and they do have all of those things that they normally have, the big offensive line and the running back, and because of where it's being played, I'm taking Wisconsin 24-17.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I've definitely, out of all my picks for the season, definitely the most biased one. I definitely want to just see Penn State start the season strong and win. I can definitely see them taking the L though. Mertz had a really strong first game last season. He threw 5 touchdowns, and then the rest of the season was just kind of so statistically. I think he only had 4 more touchdowns over the course of the last 6 games.
Didn't Mertz
Yeah.
get hurt last year? Yeah.
I think it was COVID, or maybe it was. But
yeah, he threw 5 touchdowns in the first half of that one game. It was crazy.
yeah,
It
the
was
first
awesome,
game was
yeah.
crazy.
That was crazy. Hey, you know what, Pete? I wanted to ask you what was crazy is I found out before the show that you're a sophomore at Penn State. That means last year, during a COVID year, here you were as a freshman. What do you have to say about that experience? Were you there, or just stay home as a freshman?
No,
How did that work?
I was here. I was on campus, living in the dorm. Pretty much in the dorm all the time. There was, obviously we couldn't go to the games, so that really sucked. But we weren't missing much.
Couldn't go to parties. Couldn't talk to anybody.
Nothing.
Stay in your room. Just stay on your computer. Wow. So are you out now? Like, do you feel like you're a real college student now? Because last year it couldn't have felt like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first day going around, seeing all those people walking to classes, it was like, I was like, holy crap, people actually go here.
Yeah.
God,
weird.
wild.
Yeah, and I'll see the first home game next week against Ball State for Penn State. I'll be there. I'll see the full stadium. That'll be an experience.
Are they allowing full capacity in there?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's
Are there
full
any
capacity.
rules or restrictions to get into the stadium or not? No.
No, I don't think so.
Show
No,
up.
just if you got a ticket, you can come in. There's nothing really.
All right, well, Pete, you're putting your hat on the line there, and saying that they're going to win on the road. Back in was it the last time that they played in Wisconsin? That was coming off of the Joe Paterno and the scandal and Sandusky and all of that, and they were a heavy underdog. But Allen Robinson, the Chicago Bears wide receiver, that team went in there, and with Bill O'Brien, and they shocked the world. So I'm sure that's being talked about there at State College. So enjoy the game. We appreciate your hard work, and we look forward to seeing you. It's great to see your face over there. We see you over there with all your fine work over on the chat. So it was good seeing you here, coming on and talking a little football with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
There he is, Pete Finelli. You'll see him there on the chat. He talks with you. He gives his opinions throughout the show there, and he's done a good job. You know what? You wait your whole life to go to college. You go to college, and then you're ready to go to parties, and you're ready to do all these things. They're just like, stay in the dorm. My nephew went to Michigan last year, and he was just it was so sad. Like, how you doing? He's like, I'm depressed. He's like, he's telling everybody, I'm depressed. I can't go anywhere. I have to stay in my room. And he only lives, a half hour. He can't really come home. Yeah. He's just like, he could have been 3,000 miles away. And he's like, no, we can't go anywhere. We can't go to a restaurant. We can't go, we're doing nothing. We're sitting here.
God, everything about that was just so weird last year. I remember when I started interning for you guys like a year ago, and just I would sit in my basement. This is the most human interaction I would have for the whole week, just seeing you and Chapman on the screen. But it's just, the whole thing is just bizarre. I'm glad we're finally moving out of it a little bit.
Hopefully. It was like last year in June, it looked like it was over, and I was getting ready to get out.
Yeah.
And then we know what happened. It wasn't like that. And then about a month ago again, it seemed like, hey, it's really seemed like, and of course with, you're allowed to go to games and everything, and you're watching them. It's like, this is over, but it's not over. So hopefully we'll get some good news over the next couple of weeks and months, and we won't be talking about COVID anymore.
Before we go to the next chapter, Wisconsin is a 5.5 point favorite. Penn State will cover or no? What do you think?
I have Wisconsin winning by 7, so no, I don't think Penn State.
I totally agree.
I like Dotson. Clifford, he's hit or miss. I think it comes down, I think the tail of the tape, you always look at the quarterback, Clifford and Mertz, but Mertz being at home. But because Wisconsin's, they've got their old bread and butter, everything. They've got a running back who is second team All Big Ten. Mm-hmm. You look at that size of the offensive line, it won't be a surprise if 3/5 of those guys, are playing on Sunday. They're going to line up, and they're going to play smash mouth football and play action and get it to the tight end, and they're at home. And I think, the crowds, which are always a factor when you're talking about college football, coming back after having a year off. Like if I was Pete and I was going to Penn State and I wasn't able to go to a game, and then they're letting me go, like, I don't know how
you'd be going wild. Yeah,
right. I'm not sure
totally
they can contain me. Screaming, and maybe Herb Street is right. Enthusiasm unknown to mankind. There in Madison.
They got the jump around there, man. That place is really gonna be shaking on Saturday. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's not. You know what? Going to Madison, and I was there in the jump around. I remember the press box. It was like, they're like, they're jump around. It's like, wow, it's going up. All right, we are ready to turn the page.
Let's do it. Ring the bell. And coming in the final chapter, just the NFL kicks off on Thursday, and that I honestly don't know what's better at the end of the day. Like I love college and NFL football, but I am so pumped to see Brady take on Dak and the Cowboys next Thursday. And I'm just, on top of that, just Lions football is back. And I know I'm going to be disappointed. I know I was super excited for all offseason for the Lions to do a few good things here and there. But I know after week 1 or week 2, really, I'm just going to be like, okay, SOL all over again, sad and depressed.
Yeah, but I think it's different this time around. And it felt SOL as we were talking about not having any kickers, on the team and, giving them some jokes and everything else. And you do have to. I've been around Detroit long enough with the sports teams. There's always got to be some kind of fall guy, and for years for the Lions, it's always just been the Fords. You just go back to them because they're the worst owners in sports. It's like they son of a bitch. But Sheila Hamp, she's different, and you got to give her not a break here. But so far, it's like if she hired a general manager in Brad Holmes, who didn't come in promising, being competitive in the first year. In fact, they traded away their quarterback and their starting wide receivers. Every indication that this team is going to be a 3 or 4 win team. They know it. They gave Dan Campbell, the head coach, an extra year, and they're playing the long game. They've said they're playing the long game. That's completely different than what the Lions have said. And even their fans who were, piping up a little bit like 3 or 4 weeks ago, like anything can happen. And they were, Rodgers is gone. Maybe he'll be traded. Now that you've watched the preseason and it's like, whoa, all right. This, that this thing right here, they're not going to come out with their offensive line bowling people over and, keeping Goff clean and this defense. It's just none of that's happening. They're going to just win a couple games. The weird part is we'll find something to complain about, but I don't think it'll be Sheila Hamp. I don't think it's going to be Brad Holmes. Dan Campbell, he wears his emotions on his sleeve and everything.
Which I love.
I do too. I think that he might be the perfect guy for a rebuild here. He'll just get out there. He'll be all after the game. Damn it, we're playing hard. If he could get his guys playing hard for him and just wears his emotions on his sleeve, as long as he doesn't do anything stupid in the game where he looks like, like the preseason game number 1 where they had some stupid stuff done at the end. If he can keep that stuff down and they just play hard and lose, I think the fans will I think the fall guys will be Penei Sewell.
Yep.
And I think Okudah. I think people will look to those and they'll bash those guys and they'll trash them. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of, when they lose, I guess it depends how they lose. I mean, if San Francisco comes in and beats them to a pulp and they lose, 38-6 or something.
Yeah. See, like I'm not looking to see anything like that. But what's nice about this year is that there weren't a ton of expectations. I mean, every year I felt like the Lions were supposed to go 9-7, 10-6, 11-5. Like we always had that mentality that the Lions were going to be good. The one thing I have to disagree with you about is Sheila Ford Hamp. I feel like that Sheila Ford Hamp has been running the team with her mom for the past few years, and nothing changed until this year. I mean, maybe she got a pass. I don't know what, but
she's only been. I mean, you can't say I think she's been running it. She's been the owner for just 2 years. So you got to take. You can't. You don't start saying like she was calling the shots when she actually wasn't the owner. You can say that she had some influence, but when you're the owner, you're the owner.
All right,
and now she's the owner for 2 years.
All right, fine. I don't want to cause speculation then, but
Well, you can do it.
Right,
I'm just saying. I just
won't
disagree with
speculate.
you on that.
I feel like she had a ton of influence in that room when she has
influence,
her mom was
no
still
doubt.
when her mom was still the owner. I just feel like she was in the room to make all these decisions about hiring Matt Patricia, keeping Bob Quinn around, stuff like that. And until the Lions start winning, start drafting well, and consistently are around 8-8, 9-7, 10-6 every year for a span of 3 to 4 to 5 years, I'm not going to trust Sheila Ford Ham. Sure, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell can have more of a pass because they're brand new here. And Brad Holmes went in saying, like, basically, we're rebuilding. We're getting rid of all these guys. We want draft picks. We want to be better in the future, not right now. That way I can trust Brad Holmes. However, I just don't trust Lions ownership at all. I can't. I've been poisoned for 25 years of my life. I can't trust them.
Yeah, it's a justifiable position. I think people that won't give them the benefit of the doubt until they win a playoff game, I understand that. I understand where you're coming from, too. So I get that. I think the thing that's going to really – I think the story of the season is going to be them just getting off the schneid so people aren't talking about 0-17 because the 49ers – going to the Packers, playing the Ravens, at the Bears, at the Vikings. I mean, those are the first 5 games.
Yeah.
I think they're going 0-5 there. So when I say that they're going 0-5, the talk about 0-17, that's going to be the top topic about this team, especially if they go out there and get housed by San Francisco and then, go to Green Bay and lose. I mean, that's the talk. 0-17, woo. And so they just need to get off the schneid. And hopefully to be in those first 5 games, hopefully to be in the first game. But I think it's going to be against Cincinnati. You don't want it to be going if they go 0-6, then I'll be sitting on here like, oh my God, I'll be putting up the signs myself. 0-17. Yeah. So they I don't want that. I lived through the 0-16 in 2008. I can't live through another one.
No, I mean I couldn't live through another one either. And I don't know. They can't go 2-15 or 3-14, anything like that. They got to win at least 5 games here. I need 5 games to say, like, you know what? We made a good decision with these guys. The roster may suck, but at least they're in games. Jared Goff is playing okay. Dan Campbell's not making stupid decisions like his predecessors are. Like, I just can't let that happen. I need them to be 5-10 at the end of the year, 5-11 at the end of the year. I need that.
It's 5-11 add up to
5-12. 5-12. Excuse me.
You get it. It's a different.
You get the idea.
It happens. Beth asking about the cornerback room that has 3 undrafted players. She says sees 3 to 4. Still doesn't look good. Yeah, you know what? I thought that they could just play hard and I thought that they would win 6 games. Like the Dolphins did everything in their power last year to tank. I mean, they were trading away players before the start of the season, trading away their left tackle. And, they won 5 or 6. Like, it's hard to just win 2 or 3 games. And so that's why I thought that the Lions, with the behind Campbell, if he could just get them to play hard, and they do have a quarterback that is at least competent and an offensive line. And, so I thought, hey, you know what? They can win 6 games. But just as how things have gone and the way Sewell has looked and how it's going to be a project over there, and, Okuda's not really got anything going. It feels to me more like what Beth is saying, it feels a lot more like a 3 or 4 than a 5 or 6 right now. We'll make those in stone predictions coming up next week, but that's the way it feels like right now.
I'll make a hot take saying by week 3 or week 4, Penei Sewell is not going to be a problem at all. I think he'll figure it out. And I mean, that's the only strength of the team is the offensive line. So by the end of the year, the offensive line is going to be good. It's all going to depend on how bad the receivers are and how bad Jared Goff is on offense. That simple.
Well, there it is. It's that simple. All right. Well, hey, it's time for football. Thanks to Pete Finelli. Good luck to you, Pete. I know the game's not there in Happy Valley, but have a good time anyways. Get out there and actually have some fun. It was fun being out with you, Jelinek. I'll see you on Tuesday. Everybody have a great Labor Day. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Banker, who's behind the scenes and as a technical advisor, he's taken the show to another level, and we do appreciate that. We got some music we're going to roll here at the end, or is that something we can do in the future?
Is the music rolling in right now?
Oh, yeah.
Woo! There we go. We're figuring it out.
All right. Happy Labor Day weekend. Good night.
Happy Labor Day weekend.
Peep the pod.